The Detroit River is ready for racing as the boats take to the river for the start of Heat 1A. Let's take a look at our lineup. First of all, in lane number 1, Bill Wooster, the owner of the boat, driven by Nate Brown. It is the Tide boat. In lane number 2, Mark Evans will be driving the Miss Exide, a boat to watch.
And the second highest qualifier was Dave Bilwak in Fred Leland's Pico's American Dream. He'll be in lane 3, while Miss DOC, driven and owned by Ken Muscatel, takes one of the outside lanes, lane number 4.
And one of the first-time drivers out here today is rookie Jimmy King. He will be in the Miss Exide 2. He'll be outside in lane number 5. Now, in this particular heat, the Miss Exide, driven by Mark Evans, will be carrying our Exide onboard camera, and it should get some exciting shots.
The Gold Cup is the only race still using the clock start. The rest are flag starts. The 1-minute clock is running. We're down to about 3 seconds, 2 seconds, 1 second. There's the start of the race, Dick.
Right off on the outside, it's Pico's American Dream, Dave Bilwak. Now on the inside, lane number 1 to the right of your screen as he comes down tight to the buoys. It's the Tide boat, Nate Brown. Now remember, the outside boat gets the advantage of keeping a higher speed, but the inside boat is running a shorter course. They even up as they come through that turn. Let's see if Bilwak can get the lead coming out of turn number 2. It looks like Bilwak will take it by about a boat length. But on the inside, the Tide is charging hard.
And up the middle is Miss Exide 1 with Mark Evans. And these boys do not, Dick, take their foot off the accelerator in that big turn. They let the water slow them down in the skid fin, but they do not let up off the middle.
Look at that challenge as Tide gets a little bit light over by the Detroit Yacht Club. He comes hard into the rooster tail turn. Both boats holding beautifully. As Jim described to you earlier, this is one of the tightest turns in all of unlimited hydroplane racing. Now it is Pico's American Dream out in the lead. Dave Bilwak doing a great job. You know, Dave is one of these drivers who's not only been a driver, he's been a crew chief, and there you can see he knows his boat. He gets the Sea-Doo fast lap. Dave Bilwak, 151 miles per hour.
And let's tell our viewers, Dick, that 151 is only the average. Down the front chutes, they'll hit about 185 mile an hour because it's rough with the waves coming back off the seawalls. But on the back chute, where the water dissipates on the recreational park area of Belle Isle Beach, they can hit 200 mile an hour.
Boy, look at those buoys pass by inside the Exide, driven by Mark Evans. Here's your lead boat. This boat tends to get a little bit light as he comes down, but Dave really knows the boat well, and he gets on and off it just right. Pico's American Dream is your leader at the point. Here's your second-place boat, the Tide, driven by Nate Brown.
And conspicuous by his absence is Ken Muscatel. The DOC active view did not start, Dick, and we can't get anywhere out of the pits. Why? Meanwhile, the Exide 2 with rookie Jimmy King is out of the race. He's off to the side.
And here comes your winner around the rooster tail turn, the winner of Heat 1A, Dave Bilwak in Pico's American Dream. The Tide boat, Nate Brown, finishes in second.
And word from the Exide 2 camp is the air diffuser, which is like a car manifold, lost compression. That put the flame out. They'll have to repair it.
Dave Bilwak in first place, Nate Brown second, Mark Evans third. We had one did not finish, one did not start. The Detroit Exide Gold Cup is sponsored by O'Doul's, what beer drinkers drink when they're not drinking beer. And by Rancho Suspension, technology that will shock you. Nautilus Battery Gold Cup. Now we're in Detroit, Michigan. We were going to show you the start of Heat 1B, but during the warm-up laps, Chip Hanauer in the Miss Bud comes to a stop in the water, radios his crew that he was hurt. Red flag came out.
And the URC crews were right on the scene. Chip is conscious, and they are taking him to a local hospital. Steve Montgomery talked with the Miss Bud crew chief, Ronnie Brown, about just what happened.
He was maneuvering around for the start and hit a fairly large roller, and the boat took off and sailed for a ways, and it seems as though it damaged the door, the trap door that's between his legs, and possibly even broke the door out, and he may have had some water blow up on him and up on his chest area and stuff like that. So this happened before, and it looks as though it might be something very similar to what happened to us.
Miss Budweiser now has 2 problems to solve before they get back into this race. The new boat hatch does not fit the old boat, and they have no replacement hatch for it. They cannot race the new boat because it was not declared for today.
The other problem they got is replacing the driver. And Mike Hansen, who last year drove Miss Madison, is here, luckily. He's agreed to step in, but some adjustments are going to have to be made to the cockpit because of the difference in size of the two drivers.
They've been honored to drive the Budweiser. They've helped the Miss Madison racing team for 30 years, and whatever Bernie needs, Bernie will get.
So Mike Hansen puts on a Miss Budweiser uniform for the day. Chip Hanauer, by the way, is out for this race. We're not his condition, Dick. He's alert, but he has a lower back injury, and hopefully he'll be released soon.
Well, we talked earlier about the hatch on the boat. There is some good news in that department as well.
T+, he was good enough to bring his hatch cover over since they're made out of the same mold, and so they were right there to help us in any way they could.
The Miss Budweiser will be back in the hunt today with Mike Hansen at the wheel, but they won't be eligible for the restart of Heat 1B. We'll have that race in just a moment. Welcome back to Unlimited Hydroplane Racing for the Exide Nautilus Battery APBA Gold Cup. This will be the restart of Heat 1B. Jim, earlier, Miss Bud had the problem, so that boat is not eligible because it stopped the heat, so they're not eligible to compete in the restart.
Our onboard camera is on the T+ boat. What a great shot that is. Steve David will be at the wheel. Boat owned by Jim Harvey. Mark Tate and Steve Woomer's Smokin' Joe's U10. Also, we'll have Jack Berry driving the Miss Wellness Plan. That boat's owned by Fred Leland. The only boat with piston power is the A2 Communications, driven by Mitch Evans.
And here come the boats on the Detroit River. This will be the start of Heat 1B. There's the gun, and we're off. Looks like right off the bat, it's going to be the outside boats to the left of center of your screen. On the outside, it is the T+, right on the inside of them. Mark Tate in Smokin' Joe's. They come down into corner number 1. It is going to be T+ with a slight lead, but can he hold it?
Boy, this is the biggest part of the turn now is T+. Whoa! He bounces right through there, as does the Smokin' Joe's. Now they're at the apex down by the Belle Isle Bridge. This is, as I said, the widest turn we've got. They never take their foot out of it. They come off of corner number 2 and down that smooth back chute.
It looks like it's going to be Smokin' Joe's taking the lead, and Steve David is fighting his boat. Now, he's further outside. He's looking for that smooth water. So far, he's had a little bit of problem, especially on a turn coming through. Smokin' Joe's is your leader, and that boat is looking beautiful as he hooks it into the rooster tail turn. He comes back down the front straight. He's got good control on the boat.
Unlike car racing, this track of water will change every time around. A different roller, a different hole as we look at the T+ engine treatment with Steve David. As you said, look at inside that cockpit. This is what Steve sees as he comes down the front chute toward the Belle Isle Bridge.
And off in the distance, it is the rooster tail of this boat. Smokin' Joe's, driven by Mark Tate. Mark has a tendency to keep his boats light, but wow, did he ever get light coming out of that turn. He looked more like the Batmobile waving in the wind up there, but notice how he pulls it back down onto the water. So often we describe these boats as being airplane wings that don't know they're not supposed to fly.
That's very true, and he gets high on that right sponson once again. He tail walked it down there off of corner number 2 as he comes down to complete lap number 2, the Wellness Plan. Jack Berry has problems. He's floating dead over by the boat club.
And there's Mitch Evans in the only piston-powered boat in the field. This is where the term Thunderboat originally came from, these old aircraft engines from World War II. There's your Sea-Doo fast lap. Mark Tate, 149 miles per hour. That would put him up in the 180s on the straightaway. Mark Tate and Smokin' Joe's, look at the control he has of the boat. This is why we say the driver, or the pilot, if you will, has got to feel the boat just like a glove. He's got to know when that boat reaches too high. Here he comes down for the checkered flag. Mark Tate takes the win. Heat 1B, a great win for this young man on his hometown course.
That's 400 points that he'll pick up. Second place for 300 points will go to Steve David in the T+. Now let's take a look as the checkered flag falls for Steve David. Here are the results of this heat.
First place goes to Smokin' Joe's. Then it was T+ in second. A2 Communications in third. The Miss Wellness Plan did not finish. Miss Budweiser, because of the incident that caused the stoppage of the first start of Heat 1B, was not able to compete in the restart. We'll be back to Detroit in just a moment. Back in Detroit, Mike Hansen is getting ready for his first ride in the Miss Budweiser. Now, the crew has successfully replaced the hatch that was blown out earlier into the lap, incidentally, of Chip Hanauer. There you see the hatch. It was given to them by the T-Plus crew. A little sportsmanship in the Unlimited pits here in Detroit. Miss Bud getting ready to go back into the water. Now, there's some new regulations in Unlimited racing. Steve Montgomery has more.
This is the fuel restrictor valve, representing a very big change in unlimited hydroplane racing in 1994. You won't see it from the shore. We have to take the turbine engine out of the engine well just to show it to you, but it is changing the sport a great deal. And Ed Nelson, the URC technical inspector, is the man in charge of this program. Ed, it's a lot of trouble to put the teams through. Tell us what it's supposed to do.
It's designed to reduce the fuel flow to the engine. The more fuel you run through a turbine engine, the more heat you generate. The more heat we generate, the more parts we break. We're running government surplus engines that there's a very limited number of. We're running out of motors. This is designed to cut down the parts we are consuming as the boats are racing. They get a new valve every day, and I collect the valves back in at the end of each day of racing. We reflow and calibrate the valves, and they are issued again the next morning to the team crews for that day. They don't hold the valve for the entire event. Or for the weekend. It's just on a day-to-day basis. And this gives me a good control of the valves, making sure no one is trying to do anything that they shouldn't to the valves, and gives me a good handle on how the valves are functioning on a daily basis if we have to start looking at any need to change or modify the valves to keep them doing what they're intended to do.
We're ready for the start of Heat 2A, and as they make the warm-up laps and the clock counts down, let's look at the lineup.
It'll be in lane number 1, Ken Muscatel and DOC. The Tide in lane 2 with Nate Brown. Smoke and Joe lane 3 with Mark Tate. On the outside, Mark Evans in Miss Exide 1, and the Miss Budweiser way on the outside with Mike Hansen getting his first baptism of fire in a boat he's never driven before.
We're going to keep an eye on the Miss Budweiser, no question about that. This is a very fast boat, some top-notch equipment. Mike is quite capable of it. Here comes the start to Heat 2A. There's the gun, and they are off on the inside. It is the Tide boat, the orange boat, coming tight on the buoy line. Nate Brown has the boat walking perfectly across the water. He throws it into the turn. Nate Brown is leading into turn number 1 in the Tide boat. Smokin' Joe's coming up fast on his outside. The Miss Budweiser holding in 3rd place on the far outside.
And a very important heat coming up for Miss Budweiser, because only the top 6 point getters will get to run for the APBA Gold Cup, and the cash goes with it. This is a point system: 400 for first, 300 for second, 225 for third. Smokin' Joe's already got 400. He's looking for his second perfect win if he can catch the Tide right here.
And boy, that is where the battle is. Tide to the right of your screen, and on the left, a little bit light, is the Smokin' Joe's boat. Now, this is the hometown river for Mark Tate. He knows this course very, very well. He grew up watching the boats on this course. Obviously, he knows something about it. He's able to put that boat in an attitude where it looks like it's going to fly out of the water, but instead it just flies past the competition, as he did right there.
3 years ago, he won the Gold Cup right here, but the last 2 years has been Chip Hanauer and the Budweiser. He's looking to repeat here today.
We're still 1, 2, 3 with Smokin' Joe's out front, the Tide in second, and the Miss Budweiser far to the outside in 3rd place. I think Mike Hansen is probably most comfortable there. Look at the conditions out there. There you see the Exide boat. The pack, you could just barely see the rooster tails way ahead of them. As we come out of the bridge turn, it is still Smokin' Joe's, a little bit wide for the Miss Budweiser, but he held on to it. Still in 2nd place is the Tide boat. Nate Brown now looks like he's going to settle back for 2nd place, just get his points, put them in his pocket. He's going to take aim at the championship, as is this man who is alone in 1st place.
Smokin' Joe's, driven by Detroiter Mark Tate.
Mark Tate has had a great run in this boat. Last year, driven as the Winston Eagle. Now you can see he gets the top speed in his lap, 148 miles per hour. That puts him somewhere around 170 miles per hour on the straightaways. And going into this first race in the Miss Bud.
Bernie says the plan is win.
Well, we're going to try. Believe me, we'll try. If I feel comfortable, we'll do it.
Have a good one.
Okay, thank you.
Mike Hansen, they had to readjust the seat, as we told you, because of the height difference between he and Chip Hanauer, who normally drives the boat. Mike used to drive the Kellogg's Frosted Flakes. That boat had a little trouble handling on the inside, and it looks like he's quite comfortable trying to handle the Miss Budweiser on the outside of the course, as he may well have handled the Kellogg's Frosted Flakes had it been here racing today. Still the leader is the Smokin' Joe's Mark Tate.
The flag is waiting as he comes off of corners number 3 and 4, and Mark Tate will make it 2 straight in Smokin' Joe's and have a perfect 800 points. And there's the checker flag for the win.
Mark Tate in Smokin' Joe's takes the win for Steve Woomer and the crew. Coming in second place, a little bit of a battle out there. Looks like Budweiser goes way wide on the turn. They're watching. There's a seawall there. He just barely missed it. Second place is going to go to the Tide boat, and it's going to be third as it stands now. There may be a violation. Let's check. Smokin' Joe's first, the Tide second, Miss Exide, then Miss DOC. Miss Budweiser dropped back to 5th place. We'll check with the officials to find out what happened, Jim.
What happened, Dick, is he knocked out the outer marker buoy, which officially means he went off the race course and almost hit the stands. Now watch. From our helicopter, watch the rooster tail, see the stands. Almost hits the stands, but does take out the outer marker buoy. That's a $300 fine, a 1-lap penalty. And the Budweiser ends up in 5th place. Now let's go down to the winner's stock and Steve Montgomery.
2 in the book so far, and things appear to be going well for you.
Everything's going real good for the Camel Power Smokin' Joe team, and you know, I give a hats off credit to my team and Mr. Woomer putting this program together with R.J. Reynolds on short notice and getting the boat out here and performing it as well as it is.
You had a new driver behind you in the red boat, but not a rookie.
No, Mike Hansen's a real good veteran driver, and he was probably out there feeling out the boat a little bit and doing what he was told to do by the Budweiser team, and you know, he ended up probably with a 3rd there or something. I'm not really sure where he finished, but look forward to that team being stronger as the weekend goes on.
More Gold Cup action on the Detroit River when ESPN Speed World returns.
Welcome back to Speed World from Detroit. Dick Crippen along with Steve Montgomery and Jim Hendrick. And speaking of Jim Hendrick, he is down in the pit with Mike Hansen after his first and wild ride in the Miss Bud.
Always thought about maybe being on the seat of the Budweiser, and all of a sudden, bam, you're in it.
It was a childhood dream all my life to drive for the Budweiser team. They were my favorite ever since I was about 6 years old. And circumstances, I wish they were a little bit better. To just jump in this thing with 45 minutes notice was a little tough. And we had a few problems in the cockpit just getting adjusted to it. And unfortunately, I took out a buoy, but hey, we'll get better.
What about your reaction, Brady? You seem to be having fun.
Well, it was having fun. I know Mike and Mike will drive it, and, you know, it's a lot like the Miss Madison, and I know that if there's any chance in hell, he'll make it a winner.
Let's go down the lineup for Heat 2B as the boats warm up on the course. It'll be the Miss Exide 2, Jimmy King, Pico's American Dream, Dave Vilwalk, A2 Communications, Mitch Evans, Miss Wellness Plan, Jack Barry, and the T Plus with Steve David. As you look inside the cockpit of the T Plus, you get a good sight line on the start. Let's see if the boats get the okay, and they do. Pico's American Dream, the nose of the boat right on the line as the 0 showed on the clock. And Dave Vilwalk has taken the lead. Lane number 4 on the outside of him to the left of your screen is the T Plus. Steve David, that appears to be his main competition. They go hard into this long turn. Turn number 2 comes out by the Belle Isle Yacht Club, and watch them as they come around that turn. Let's see if Dave Vilwalk will hold it in there. He does. There you can see second place on the outside of him to the left of your screen. A little bit light for the T Plus.
Owner Jim Harvey told me that the acceleration off the exit pins are not up to par. The chute speed, well, it takes too much water to get the chute speed, so they're going to work on that as we see your leader, Dave Vilwalk, in the Pico's American Dream.
Dave is doing a great job. He also drives the boat very light, as does Steve David in the T Plus. Vilwalk has held the boat out in the lead from the start, got a perfect start on the clock.
The Wellness Plan for the second straight heat has had problems. They had an oil line drop off the gearbox. The gearbox, now we get a report, has seized up. That's why they've stopped.
Jimmy King, the rookie driver on the outside of the course, doing a good job in the Miss Exide 2 inside the T Plus with Steve David. Look at the ride this guy's getting. You can see the rooster tail ahead of him on the left. That is your lead boat. Let's get an idea from our helicopter of how far there is between the second place boat, and if you look down the course, you can see the leader right there. Pico American Dream, driven by Dave Vilwalk. He's had a great ride as he comes around the course for the checkered flag, passes the Miss Wellness Plan dead in the water. Here comes your winner, Heat 2B, Pico's American Dream. Good job, Dave Vilwalk, followed by... Back in Detroit, Michigan, the boats are already on the Detroit River getting ready for Heat 3A. And here's the lineup for the race. The Tide boat driven by Nate Brown. Smokin' Joe's driven by Mark Tate. Ken Muscatel aboard the Miss DOC AccuView. Mitch Evans in the A2 Communications, and Pico's American Dream driven by Dave Vilwalk. We talked to Dave between the heats.
2 for 2 is not too shabby on the Detroit River.
Yeah, for me, you know, after last year, getting upside down and coming out here soggy, you know, it's a dream come true, and it's a dream team, you know, and thankfully that Pico's got us here and give us some equipment to at least do battle with some of these top teams.
The boats come out of the Rooster Tail turn. They're going to look for the start this time around as they come down the front straightaway here in Detroit. There goes the start gun, and we are off with Smokin' Joe's Mark Tate taking the lead. Pico's American Dream on his right hip. It looks like third place is going to be the Tide boat driven by Nate Brown. And as they come down into the long first turn, it is Smokin' Joe's in the lead.
And Mark Tate is looking for his third consecutive heat win here in the Gold Cup. He'd have 1,200 perfect points if he maintains position, and points are accumulative toward the O'Doul's High Point Championship. And you know, every year we get down to the last race of the year, which is the Outrigger Hotel's Thunderfest in Hawaii, and that's where it's all decided. That'll be decided October 16th.
Well, I'm sure this boat is going to be one of the favorites going into that race, too, because Mark Tate is having just a perfect day on the Detroit River. He's got a great running boat, and he's taking it to its max. Meanwhile, Tide, as you see on your screen right now in the Rooster Tail, has moved up into second place. That drops Dave Vilwalk in Pico's American Dream back to third. But you can see it's still a tight race as they come down the front straightaway. It is still a very tight race between the top three.
And the fastest Sea-Doo lap so far in the Gold Cup, Mark Tate at 153 miles an hour in the Smokin' Joe. Fourth place, Dick, is the DOC AccuView, Ken Muscatel. And we get word that Mitch Evans and the A2 Communications boat, magneto problems, that's why they didn't start.
Well, there are going to be a lot of disappointed people to hear that that boat's out of it, because they always root for the underdog. And Mitch, I'll tell you, the determination of that crew and the driver, Mitch Evans, just fantastic. The Miss DOC AccuView, Ken Muscatel, now riding in fourth place, averaging just on the plus side of 126 miles per hour. Here's Pico's American Dream, this boat riding now in third place. He had 2 first-place finishes on the day. They come around for the final lap. The white flag being flown off of the starter's gate is indicating to the driver 1 more lap to go. Already into that final lap is this boat. The leader, look at him tiptoe across the water. Smokin' Joe's, driven by Detroit's own Mark Tate. This is quite a story for the fans along the river to have a hometown entry in the Gold Cup race doing this well so far today.
And crew chief Jim Lucero and the rest of his crew can be proud. The third straight checkered flag.
A great race for the Smokin' Joe's team. Their second place to the Tide boat, Nate Brown. We congratulate he and his crew. And, of course, in third place, Pico's American Dream, Dave Vilwalk. There are the official results for this race, with Miss DOC fourth, A2 Communications fifth, and there are your cumulative totals on the day so far. So far, he has himself 3 consecutive wins as he continues to take aim at the Gold Cup. Meanwhile, look who's back in the pits.
Welcome back. How do you feel?
Glad to be back.
No fun watching, but you got a pretty good man out there taking your place.
Yeah, I think Mike's going to do just fine. You know, it's a tough position to put somebody in. You know, he hasn't had a lot of time in the boat.
We haven't heard from you exactly what happened.
I was just going through the infield relatively slow, about 130, and all of a sudden it just felt like somebody hit me in the back with a sledgehammer, and the boat came to a stop. I could see the hatch was gone, and apparently it just came through and hit me in the back or something.
Chip Hanauer on the sidelines as Mike Hansen takes the Budweiser back out onto the Detroit River course as we continue the quest for the Exide Nautilus Battery APBA Gold Cup. ESPN Speed World back in Detroit, Michigan for the Exide Nautilus Battery APBA Gold Cup. More unusual happening in the pits. Here's Steve Montgomery.
Gentlemen, we have a development here in the pit area. There was some confusion at the start of Heat 3B. As the boats came down to start the heat, the big digital clock at start-finish had ticked down to 19 seconds, then it went blank. All the lights went out, and as the drivers went by, the scoreboard was dark. It was ruled originally that Mark Evans had jumped the gun, which, frankly, he probably did. But the officials said that since
disqualified the Exide boat, penalize him a lap, put him back to last. Now, that's fine. The Budweiser information went to them. They planned strategy accordingly in their camp, and they didn't lobby hard about this, but I knew this. They ran second thinking they'd won the heat. Because then, at the end, because of the clock malfunction, we reversed our call again. Let Exide know because of the clock malfunction they'd won the race. Well, we got a mess here. You know, we're going to have a lot of, but I'll tell you one thing. We're going to clear it up in a hurry. Whether they yell or not, we're going to rerun the darn thing. And now, if they can beat them, they can beat them. If they can't beat them, well, I don't know. I mean, what can I say? There you are.
This is going to be the restart of Heat 3B that Mr. Dona was just talking about there inside the Miss Budweiser. This will be a good shot because you can see the shock effect on the helmet of Mike Hansen. We also have a camera inside the Exide boat riding with Mark Evans. Look at the wings in the front of the boat. You can see him kind of bouncing up and down. And we're also inside the T-Plus with Stephen David. Now, all the water's clear in front of all these boats right now as they come around to take the start in the restart of Heat 3B. It'll be the Miss Budweiser, Mike Hansen, Miss Exide, Mark Evans, T-Plus, Stephen David, Jimmy King, the rookie, in the Miss Exide 2, and Jack Barry in the Miss Wellness Plan.
Wellness Plan is not reported. They're still having problems with their gearbox. They're out for the day since that oil line fell off and seized up the only gearbox that was working for them. So Wellness Plan is out for the day.
And there's the start of the restart for Heat 3B. A little bit confusing, but we'll get these boats straightened out on the course as they run. And the lead boat right off the bat out of lane 3 is the Miss Budweiser. There's inside the T-Plus. He takes a little bit of the rooster tail from the Budweiser. And look at the water coming into the cockpit. And Stephen David veering off the course. He gets it under control, pulls it back in for third place. Here's your lead boat inside. Look at the ride that Mike Hansen is getting as his helmet bobs all over the place. Meanwhile, the Miss Exide 2 is back in fourth place, driven by the rookie Jimmy King. He's had a pretty good day of driving, considering he is a rookie driver in his first race here in Detroit. And what a place to be starting out in. Here's your lead boat, the Miss Budweiser. Jim, you can't say anything about it. It is riding beautifully.
Yes, and it's a very important win if he can hold it together now here through 5 laps.
Great moment. Mike Hansen looking up, seeing that checkered flag for the first time in the seat of the Miss Budweiser. And I think Chip Hanauer is very, very happy for him. Of course, he wants to see his boat continue to gather in those points. But he's got to be happy that the replacement driver, Mike Hansen, is doing the job for him. There's Mike getting the checkered flag. Congratulations to him and the entire crew. Second place will go to the Miss Exide, driven by Mark Evans. Then it's the T-Plus with a total on the day, 825 points. Miss Exide 2 is fourth, and the Miss Wellness Plan.
And the Wellness Plan, of course, getting no starts or finishes today, 0 points for the day.
And I know that back on that Miss Budweiser dock, there's a lot of happiness. The owner from Lakeland, Florida there is giving a thumbs up to the driver and a little round of applause. Bernie Little, he's enjoying this day now.